I still hear his voice in my head sometimes, that cold, amused tone, that little smirk that made my stomach twist. Economy, don't complain. This is all you can handle. He said it right in front of the entire staff, standing there in his expensive suit, arms crossed, looking down at us like we were children, begging for candy. The room went quiet. Forks stopped clinking. Even the kitchen noise seemed to fade for a second. And then he smiled. Not a kind smile, the kind that says he already won. My name is Elena. Back then, I was just another server in a busy downtown restaurant that looked perfect from the outside. White tablecloths, soft lighting, prices that made people whisper. Inside, it was different. We worked double shifts on aching feet. Tips were our real salary. The official pay barely covered rent if you were lucky. Most of us weren't lucky. I had a 6-year-old daughter at home and a mother who needed medicine every month. I smiled through every shift because I had to. The other servers became my second family. We covered for each other when someone got sick. We shared leftover bread at the end of the night. We talked about dreams in the break room like they were fragile secrets. Mr. Lawson, the owner, never saw any of that. To him, we were numbers, replaceable. He loved walking through the dining room during rush hour just to remind us who was in charge. One night he stopped beside my table while I was clearing plates and said, loud enough for guests to hear, "Hurry up, Elena. Guests don't tip slow people." Then he walked away, laughing. I swallowed it. We all did. Because rent was due, because the job market felt impossible, because we told ourselves it was temporary. But something shifted the day he said those words about the economy. It wasn't just me who felt it. I saw the same look on every face in that staff meeting. The quiet ones, the loud ones, the ones who usually joked to keep the mood light. In that moment, we all understood the same truth. He didn't just underpay us, he enjoyed it. I went home that night and sat on the edge of my daughter's bed while she slept. I whispered to the dark that I was tired of feeling small, tired of smiling while my chest burned. I didn't know yet what we were going to do. I only knew the smirk had done something permanent inside me. It had cracked the last piece of hope that things might get better if we just worked harder. What I didn't know that night was that the staff already had a secret, and that secret was about to change everything. The weeks after that meeting felt heavier. Lawson started cutting corners even more. He reduced our hours without warning, then scheduled us for training that somehow never got paid. One of the older servers, Rosa, asked about the missing overtime. He told her if she didn't like it, she could find another job. She cried in the walk-in cooler. I held her while the cold air stung our skin. I started writing everything down, dates, times, exact words. At first it was just for myself, a way to prove I wasn't crazy. Then, other people began sliding little notes into my locker, screenshots of schedule changes, voice memos of Lawson laughing about how these people will never leave. We were building a quiet pile of truth without even planning it. My personal life was unraveling at the same time. My daughter's school called because the lunch account was empty. My mother's medication went up again. I sat at the kitchen table one night, calculating how many more shifts I could take before my body gave out. The numbers didn't add up. They never did. Then came the night that broke something open. A large private party, important guests. Lawson walked through the kitchen and announced that tips from the private room would go into the house account that month. We all knew what that meant. He was taking them? Rosa's face went white. One of the cooks muttered something under his breath. Lawson heard it. He spun around and fired the cook on the spot. No warning, no discussion, just get out. I stood there holding a tray of empty glasses, heart hammering, watching a man who had 3 children walk out into the night with nothing. That was the moment the pain turned into something sharper, not just hurt, clarity. Later that week, I called a quiet meeting at my apartment after closing. Only the people I trusted. 6 of us sat on my small couch and floor, voices low, so my daughter wouldn't wake. I put the notebook on the table, Rosa added her notes, someone else brought printed emails. We looked at the pile and realized we weren't powerless. We had been collecting proof the whole time without even meaning to. But the real secret wasn't the notebook. The real secret was what we decided to do with it. One of the servers, Maya, had a cousin who worked for a local news station that ran stories about workplace issues. Another had a friend at the labor board. And I had something I had kept quiet for years. Before this job, I had completed night classes in small business management. I still had the certificate in a drawer, and I had been quietly testing recipes at home, selling a few dishes online under a different name just to make extra money. The orders were starting to grow. Slowly, quietly, we made a plan. Not loud, not angry, careful. We would gather everything, make it clean and clear, and then we would walk away together at the exact right moment. But first, we would make sure Lawson could never treat another group of people the way he treated us. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed, smiling at tables, nodding when he walked by, carrying trays while my mind calculated dates and documents. Every time he smirked at someone, the fire in my chest grew steadier. I was no longer just surviving. I was waiting. The night everything came apart started like any other Friday. Full reservations, busy kitchen, Lawson in a good mood because a food critic was supposed to visit. He gathered us before service and repeated the same speech about standards and excellence. Then he looked straight at me and said, almost playfully, remember, Elena, this is all you can handle. Don't get ideas. I met his eyes and nodded once. Calm, quiet. 2 hours later, the critic never showed. Instead, 3 people from the labor board walked in with folders. At the same time, a local reporter stood outside with a camera. The story that aired the next morning was simple and devastating. Years of unpaid overtime, tip theft, and written evidence of a boss who openly mocked his staff for asking to be paid fairly. The notebook and the recordings did the rest. Lawson tried to laugh it off at first. Then the color drained from his face when he realized every server and most of the kitchen staff had already submitted their 2-week notices, effective immediately. We had timed it. The restaurant could not run without us. Reservations cancelled, reviews turned. Within a month, the doors closed for good. I did not celebrate the way some people might expect. I felt a deep, quiet release, like finally putting down a weight I had carried for years. Rosa cried happy tears. Maya hugged me so hard my ribs hurt. We stood in the empty parking lot the night we left and just breathed. 6 months later, I opened a small neighborhood cafe with 3 of the old staff as partners. We pay living wages, we share tips fairly, we close 1 day a week so no one burns out. My daughter has a lunch account that never runs empty. My mother has her medicine. And sometimes, when a new hire looks nervous on their first day, I tell them the truth. No job is worth feeling small. People still ask me if I hate Mr. Lawson. I don't. Hatred would mean he still owns a piece of me. He doesn't. The smirk that once made me shrink now lives in the past where it belongs. If you're listening to this and someone has made you feel like this is all you can handle, I want you to know something. You are allowed to document. You are allowed to plan. You are allowed to walk away with your head high and build something better. The people who try to keep you small are usually the ones most afraid of what you might become. When you finally stand up, I stood up, and the view from here is so much clearer.